Good morning and welcome to AROHE's Idea Exchange webinar. This morning, we are going to be hearing from two of our member organizations, the Retirement Association of Portland State University and the University of Wisconsin Retirement Association. So I want to thank them for joining us this morning for all the work they've put into their presentations. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sue Barnes. I am AROHE's Interim Executive Director. I'm also a retiree from the University of California. Also joining us this morning will be Gray Kraus, and he is the director of the Emeritus College at Emory University. He will be moderating today, monitoring the chat. We'll be asking people to pose your questions via chat. And so during the Q&A times for each of the presentations, Gray will be presenting questions to our speakers. The other things so we'll be introducing our speakers from the associations here. And so first and they'll be joining us in just a moment, but from the Retirement Association of Portland State University, we have Larry Sawyer, who is their webmaster and coordinator for other retirement organizations in AROHE. Dawn White is with us. She's a past president and chair of the program committee. Eileen Brennan, who's a former president and a current board member. And then from the University of Wisconsin-Madison Retirement Association, we have Sandy Haas, who's the executive director, and we have Mary Sinzak Line, I hope I pronounced that correctly, immediate past president. So thank you all for joining us this morning. Just to give you an overview of our schedule, each organization will give about a 15-minute presentation and we'll have 5 minutes for their Q&A. I know this is brief, but at all of our webinars, our participants say that they want more time in the breakout rooms, so we want to give you as much time as we can for informal discussion. Each organization has prepared a really nice handout with more detailed information that I will send out after the webinar. So you don't need to take detailed notes, you can just listen. We will be going into breakout rooms following both of the presentations. Okay, so with that, let me turn it over to Larry with the Retirement Association at Portland State. Larry? And you'll have to unmute, Larry.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm bringing up the slide presentation. And I'm not seeing it on my screen. Are you seeing it?
No, I see your Zoom screen.
We practiced this and it came out perfectly. There it goes.
There you go.
I just had to do one more click. Okay, as you already heard, I'm Larry Sawyer. This PowerPoint presentation will be presented by 3 members of the Portland State University Retirement Association, known as RAPS. Presenting our 1 retired staff member, that's me, 1 emeritus faculty member, that's Eileen, and 1 retired administrative faculty member, that's Dawn. All past presidents and our current board members. Portland, Oregon is the largest city in Oregon, situated on the Willamette River and a deep water seaport. It's dug out all the way to the river. We are a city of bridges. In the greater Portland area, there are 11 bridges across the Willamette River. This view is looking north from the West Hills. I'm also the hiking coordinator. There are several extinct volcanoes within the city limits. Here are members of our hiking group near the summit of Mount Tabor, looking west towards the city and the West Hills. So we're surrounded by hills. Here's another picture taken from the West Hills, and that's Mount Hood in the background, 50 miles away. And this little hump here is Mount Tabor, which is an extinct volcano. So much for Portland. At Portland State University, there are about 78% of the Portland State students are Oregon residents, and most reside in the greater Portland area. And this is our tuition, and this is the number of students we have, the faculty ratio, and the average salary. University is located downtown. A linear city park goes directly through campus. This park is several blocks long and 1 block wide. We are 50 buildings in a 50-acre area. And that is a trivia question, which I'll talk about later. Actually, the engineering people came up with that one. I'm now turning the presentation over to Eileen Brennan.
I will unmute myself. Thank you very much, Larry. So our story is interesting. COVID really hit Oregon hard in the spring of 2020. Our governor declared a state of emergency and issued an executive stay-at-home order on March 23rd. And PSU always had online courses over the last couple of decades and in-person classes, but they also added a number of remote classes, which were regular in-person classes that changed to being delivered online. And our guidelines issued by our President Stephen Percy said that meetings should be at a minimum and go remote whenever possible. And so in March, the RAPS board, our Retirement Association board, canceled in-person meetings until further notice. Next slide, please. So our organization really has a member-led focus. And so we began as a board meeting remotely, and we decided the best thing to do was to ask our members. So we provided an online survey on July 29th, and 63 people responded to our survey. We were very grateful for that. 83% of them preferred online to in-person meetings, and very few would be willing to attend meetings on campus when social distancing and masks were used. So we went largely to online meetings. We asked them also, when would they come back to campus? And they said, when a vaccine was available. This was very good for the organization, but there were some people that really weren't comfortable with Zoom. So we said we would provide Zoom trainings, and 9 members said they were interested, but a number more got training. And we made it informal and fun and engaging so that they would want to come to our Zoom meetings. Next slide, please. We also have group activities which changed. The Bridge group felt that virtual games wouldn't be desirable, and so they stopped meeting until the universities started to open again for in-person meetings. Larry has indicated we have a wonderful hiking group, and that hiking group looked at the logistics and decided that they would wait until conditions really changed. Many of our local trails and parks were closed to groups, and so we also suspended the hiking group. The group that has really had an advantage is the book club. We read a book every month picked by the members, and we've added members. We've actually reached out to members, and people who didn't feel comfortable driving long distances now can go on Zoom and participate in the book groups. We're missing the tasty treats that used to be at the houses that we were discussing the books at, but it's really been good for that book group. So we also have lively, well-attended social events, including parties, picnics, and potlucks, and they were completely curtailed. However, we missed each other so much that we decided to have a holiday party. Next slide, please. So we billed it as a house party, gave 2 hours over to Zoom. We had a flexible schedule with focus on participation and mingling. We asked people to bring holiday treats, their beverages, and there was a half an hour just of open visiting, and that went very well. And then we had 2 trivia challenge contests, 12 questions apiece. Lots of stories were told around almost every question. And in the middle, we had a wine tasting that was offered by a very renowned local faculty wine connoisseur, Scott Burns, who is a great geologist. And he had people hold up their bottles with their labels, and he talked about the wine terroir and the wine production in that area. And then the final event of the holiday party was a video of our delightful opera director, Christine Meadows, who portrayed Julia Child baking a holiday cake to musical accompaniment. This was a play that we happen to have on YouTube, and everybody loved it. Next slide, please. I wanted to show you one example of the trivia challenge. We asked, what was the first year that PSU fielded a football team? Well, the answer to that is 1947. And the reason that's interesting is they played in a muddy field, and the game was, quote, enhanced by aromas from the smokestack of a nearby meat packing plant. So that's part of PSU history. So Dawn White will next speak about our transformed schedule of member programs.
Thank you, Eileen. Am I ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. Well, our spring programs, as you know, were canceled due to the pandemic, and we were able to start our programming year in September using the Zoom platform. September is the beginning of our programming year, and it also coincides with the beginning of fall term at Portland State. So over the years, while our meeting content does change a lot, there are some traditions that have become established. For example, we always have a program in March highlighting the university's spring opera, and we reserve our April meeting for the president's annual luncheon for staff and faculty. So those traditions were interrupted by the pandemic, but they will definitely be resumed. You can see that we have a program committee and receive suggestions for topics from our members and our board, but serendipity plays a role too. For example, one of our board members happened to hear an interview on public radio featuring a PSU chemistry professor who was talking about her work identifying pigments used in Renaissance artwork to aid in the restoration process. So we asked her to speak to RATS, and that became a very well-received presentation entitled Pigment of Your Imagination, Tales of Artwork from a Conservation Science Perspective. In another case, we had scheduled a talk by a retired surgeon on his work abroad volunteering for Mercy Corps International. In the process of emailing him about program arrangements, I learned that he and his wife had just gotten back from walking the Camino de Santiago in Spain. So we invited him back the next year with his wife, and they gave a wonderful presentation about their experience on the Pilgrim's Path. And not only that, they brought a friend with them who had walked the Camino solo. So she was able to offer a completely different perspective. That was also very well received. Next slide, please. So you can see that we cover a wide variety of topics in our presentations. This is actually by no means a complete list. I could have added health, fitness and health to that list. And we've had presentations on topics such as housing choices that might change as we age. We publicize our programs in our monthly newsletter, The Rap Sheet, comes out 10 times a year. And we also rely on our office manager to send out frequent emails to keep us informed about upcoming programs. One of the handouts that you'll see from Portland State that will come to you after the meeting today is a list of our programs for the last 2 years. And so you can see how COVID interrupted the spring programming and how we're able to pick up again in the fall. Next slide, please. September programs are usually held off campus. This is another tradition that has come about because September is the busiest month of the year on our campus and meeting rooms are hard to find. So we started having a meeting that was often off campus. It could be a guided tour of a local city attraction. We've been to the Japanese garden, for example. But sometimes we will do a walking tour at PSU of a new or newly renovated building. In September, last September, we were actually scheduled to have a walking tour, guided tour of a new brand new art museum on our campus, the Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art. But of course, the pandemic made that impossible. So we were very lucky to have our new president, Steve Percy, talk to us over Zoom. And that was actually the first program that we introduced our members on Zoom, and it was very, very successful. That was also a good thing because President Percy had not been able to meet with us the previous April when we had scheduled the President's Luncheon because of the pandemic. So the two events that are strictly social, our holiday gathering in December and our summer picnic, are held off campus for obvious reasons. In addition to our meetings on campus and those events off campus, we have extra activities occasionally. Over the last few years, we have enjoyed several bus trips to nearby wineries where we have learned about the winemaking process and sampled wines. The very same professor that Eileen mentioned, our geology professor, who is a wine expert, has led these tours for us. It's been so enjoyable, sitting out on a beautiful vineyard, sipping wine. Very nice event for RAPS. Next slide, please. RAPS members are, of course, very loyal to the university. And though it may be many years since some of us retired, we remain interested in keeping up with what's happening on campus. So we try to reinforce that member connection to the university. We almost always have one or two presentations a year focusing on some aspect of Portland State's history or on a new and innovative program. We also ask PSU professors and administrators to talk to us, and that's another way to keep our connection strong with the university. And it's also a good way for us to be seen by the administrators and faculty. So you'll notice that the numbers at the President's Luncheon are quite a bit larger than our regular monthly meetings. That's because all retirees in the Portland metropolitan area receive an invitation to this event, whether they are our RAPS member or not. And we are very lucky that the President's office pays a significant portion of those expenses for us. Next slide. Okay, we end our presentation with this lovely photo taken by Larry Sawyer of a spot in the Columbia Gorge, 50 miles outside of Portland, where the hiking group spent a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, RAPS. And now Gray, who's our moderator, will be relaying some of the questions that have come in. Of course, we won't be able to answer everybody's questions, but we'll get to several, and you can always email our presenters for follow-up after the webinar as well. Gray?
And the first question is, how large is RAPS?
Unmute yourselves.
Yeah, I can answer that. We're a fairly small organization, and I think there's 269. That's in the handout. And also, we give free one-year memberships to anyone that HR considers letting us know retired. That's always fun, getting HR to tell us who retired. So we're strictly staff and faculty. Our ears perked up when Madison talks about inviting anyone interested in university. We have another group on campus who are retired seniors, and they have their own group. And sometimes it gets mixed up between RAPS and RAPS PSU. Anyway, that's enough. Any other question?
There's two questions basically relating whether they're dues or membership fees.
Okay, that's also included in the handouts. As I say, the first year that we're told, they get free membership. After that, it's $20 a year, but we also have discount ones if you do 3 years, 5 years, and life. I don't know on the life, but it used to be 65 to 85. They figured at age 85, you'd paid as much as somebody who paid the $200 life. And so you phone us up and say, I'm 85, you're free. And we don't keep a record of they got to tell us. Okay.
Another question about your newsletter, the rap sheet, is it in print or only online?
We'd like to have it all online because it costs a bundle. to print and mail. The provost, by the way, picks up that cost for us, along with all our office space and our student part-time office manager. That's also in the handout. I think it's 10 editions a year, and it's monthly. And it's called the RAP sheet because we're RAPs. We had another logo once, but when Hooters came to town, we had to change it.
And then some questions. What is the difference between the two groups of retirees? I assume that's faculty versus staff. And is there difference in programming for the two groups?
There's only one group. We're combined faculty staff. It's hard to get a lot of staff. We are a very sociable university. All the classes I've taken, the instructors are my first name and no doctor names. But still, you get somebody who's a carpenter or electrician, they say, oh, that's faculty. And we have a hard time getting those people. So there's more faculty than there are staff. And there's probably, I don't know the exact number of emeritus versus non-emeritus, but I suspect there are more emeritus than non-emeritus. The other organization is retirees who are 65 years old or older can take audit classes for free at Portland State. And so they form their own little group. And it's supported by the Institute on Aging. And they have a small office there. And they have access to the university's database for scheduling, but that's about it. I'm probably talking more than I should on this, but that organization, there are people there that are 95 years old that are still taking classes. And lifelong learner is a buzzword for administration people. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, they show up at class for the first time, show the instructor a slip that says they're a retiree, taking it for audit. And if the instructor has a seat, they usually get in. If the instructor has a waiting list, they don't get in. And it's up to the instructor as to how they want to treat them. I've had them say, take the class and shut up, let the paying students ask the questions. And I've had other instructors say, I want you to participate. It's all up to the instructor on that point. And that's probably more than I need to say about it. So I'll turn it over to somebody else.
We have time for one more question, Gray.
Okay, there's questions about payment, one for things that have charges like bus, and then the other thing about the newsletter, who pays for that? Is there funding for those, or do members pay?
Okay, again, the newsletter and all the treats and room rentals and all that are paid by the provost's office. And they have a budget and we stay under it, and that's it. But they pay for all the mailings, all the printings, all the office staff, the one student, and several other things. And I was, since I'm webmaster, I had to take classes once a year to keep my Odin account, which is their computer server thing. And I was about to lose it because I wasn't going to take a class this quarter. And the provost allowed me to be an Odin participant by sponsorship. So we have a very supportive provost. Our own budget is small from dues and things like that, and that takes care of incidentals.
Okay. Thank you so much to RAPS. I really appreciate all of your information. That was great. And remember, everybody, that we do have a pretty detailed handout from each organization that goes into more detail, and you will also be able to follow up with the speakers because we can't get to everybody's questions today. So at this point, excuse me, we would like to welcome Sandy Haas and Mary Cisnak from the University of Wisconsin-Madison Retirement Association. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. And let me bring up my PowerPoint. Here we go. Welcome to the University of Wisconsin. What you're seeing in front of you is an aerial photo of our campus. It is from our west end of campus to our Capitol, way up here, up on the top. And that is the entire University of Wisconsin-Madison. It covers 1.5 square miles, a little larger than Portland State. Madison is the flagship campus of the University of Wisconsin system. There are 13 campuses and 13 two-year campuses. So we are quite large in comparison. To give you an idea, student enrollment for the University of Wisconsin system is 165,000. In Madison, our fall enrollment was 45,500. Faculty and staff on campus, just shy of 24,000 employees. But a little bit about us. Whoop. Oh dear, now I don't know, how do I go back? Oh, there. We were organized in 1999 by the Faculty Senate as an ad hoc retirement association. So we are pretty young in comparison to some of the other organizations throughout the country. We are organized as a 501c4, which is a little bit different than some of you. I'm sure that some of you are a 501c3. The difference between those nonprofits is the ability of the membership. It serves the membership, not the public, and we don't solicit donations. We are totally self-supported by member dues. We are lucky enough to have an office on campus and receive a telephone, and that is about it. So size-wise, when we chartered, we had 835 members. There are 610 of those charter members still active within our association. Our total membership at the moment, 2,050 individuals. That includes, if you look at two-person households, we have about 1,400 households. As was mentioned, we are open to retired as well as current employees, including spouses, partners, widows and widowers, retirees with absolutely no UW affiliation other than friendship can join our association. We are about 30% faculty, 47% academic staff, instructional and non-instructional, and classified or university staff about 22%. And those non-UW affiliates and retirees about 3%. We are an all volunteer association, including yours truly as executive director. We do not pay. We are committee driven. We have 7 major committees that offer a variety of programs. On average, in a non-COVID year, we host 40 to 45 events. And that does not include committee meetings by any of the committees. We have a 14-member board. We have elected officers, 5 elective officers, and we have 9 directors at large, which represent the cohorts of the faculty, academic staff, and university staff. Well, we publish a newsletter monthly from September through June. It is roughly a 12-page newsletter. For those that you are interested, it is posted on our website under resources, and you're more than welcome to go and take a look about every member who has a email receives a link to the monthly newsletter. About 1/3 of our members have elected to also receive it in paper. So we send out around 500 hard copy newsletters to those individuals. The other thing is we are a member of the Big Ten Retiree Association. It is our neighbors here in the Midwest. We meet annually about a day and a half to 2 days to share what is going on, successes and challenges that each of us are facing. It also, the meeting rotates between the campuses and we get to see a little bit of the surroundings that each of them have. This year, I've been in contact with the host, which is University of Indiana, and they are looking at doing it virtually. So we will have that experience. So enough about your network and retirement. Mary is going to talk a little bit about what we looked like before the pandemic and what we look like now.
Good morning, everyone. So before the pandemic, we held between 40 and 45 events a year and 24 social breakfasts. The breakfasts were more geographic in town, the west side versus the east side. Now we've combined due to the virtual platform we're on. Our attendance on those were between 50 and 75 for the events. The breakfasts were much lower than that. We also require registration for that. That's handled through we have a data management system for that. And now with Zoom, obviously that's another step too. With consent of our speakers, we videotape and post our presentations on our website and any handouts, PowerPoints, or slides there. So our challenges since COVID has been welcomed into our living rooms, trying to be positive about this, right? The last in-person meeting we had was March 4th of 2020. And then the last committee meeting of the association was March 6th of 2020. So we had to cancel 19 events between March 17 and May 19 last year. We also were faced with a challenge regarding our bylaws because we didn't have the flexibility to meet in a virtual world or to conduct business. So we undertook a complete bylaws revision along with writing special rules of order on how the different bodies, whether it's full membership or the board of directors, conducted business. That has been very successful. I think people are happy with that overall. And I would say that would be a best practice too, which we can get to. So regarding the bylaws and special rules, as I spoke to, we had to do something to conduct our business. Then adopting the special rules was to allow folks to participate in that special business, including our annual meeting, which is where we elect our officers, approve the budget, have transition of leadership. I just lost my place. Then we jump to, we're actually well on our way, thanks to Sandy, as far as Zoom. We really did not skip a beat. We still had our annual meeting in a month later than we anticipated, but that went on just fine. We had probably, I think, close to 80 people on that call, which is about what we would have in an in-person event, although we didn't offer lunch. So with the Zoom licenses, we were able to continue to operate. And with that came development of informational materials for committees and how they conduct their business. We also had developed training materials and information materials for the program coordinators, so they knew how to conduct a meeting, make introductions, move slides forward, work with their speakers that were attending, so they were brought up to speed on this. And then Sandy also offered many training opportunities for our members and other folks interested in Zoom on how to participate. We actually have had more participation with Zoom because of out of area folks, folks from Arizona, California, Pennsylvania participating as we went forward. We started our virtual breakfasts up again in January. And like I said, those have been successful. I'm not a big Zoom person for social things. I would prefer to do business and get it over with. Currently, we have 8 2-hour webinars scheduled from January through May this year. And like I mentioned, we have a higher number of participants, which in a survey we did over as part of strategic planning for the association, we're going to probably be looking about how we can blend both in-person and virtual so people can have both opportunities. So adjustments we had to make. Obviously, we're getting committees up and running on Zoom and looking at best practices and how we operate through Zoom. And then we were able to institute a standard survey at the end of all webinars to get some feedback for continuous improvement, both for the association and both for speakers who are presenting. In the past, just as a little sidebar here, we had thank you gifts for our speakers, a nominal mug or portfolio type thing. This year we went to take the dollars that we would spend on that, and we agreed as an association to move forward and actually make a donation to our student-run food pantry on campus, which has been well received. We still have students on campus who now have lost their student hourly positions and are in dire straits financially. So the food pantry's been a real lifeline for them to continue. We're also looking at sharing or purchasing a shared Zoom license so committee chairs can actually run their own meetings without having the executive director functioning as that host at each time. So best practices. Number one would be that we have a welcome slide for each program, and somewhat like Sue did at the beginning, talking about specifics, etiquette, decorum, that type of thing, how to participate. Then we've instituted an annual review of our bylaws to keep them up to date and not just that it looks like it's time to do it. So in the bylaws also it specifies that the immediate past president will be the chair of that group. They will keep then contact or keep a list of bylaw amendments. Those be presented at their annual meeting again in May for adoption by the membership at large. The executive director and the board of directors has committed to remain very nimble throughout this process, that if we need to call special meetings, have some flexibility, that we're not going to be rigid about this. It's about the success of the organization and not about individual egos, if I may be that blunt about it. We've asked folks to stay engaged and not be off-put by this new format. And part of that also supported the training and to be welcoming in those events. We're asking folks to think outside of the box. So we have a travel committee. Typically they would do the day trips like Portland would do. Now we're calling in our members who have traveled, who have robust slides to give presentations on places they've been. And then we continue to serve everybody with the electronic world. If someone is interested in a special program, we'll see what we can do about that. We're continuing to reach out to members through emails, phone calls, newsletters. We have a blog on our website and a Facebook group. And then, as always, we thank people for the continued patience and the work that they're doing during this difficult time. And that wraps up our presentation.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And Gray, what questions do we have?
Okay, these questions came in, I assume they were about your presentation, but I was wondering, is there liability protection from the university for your group directors and events?
No, we are not affiliated with the university other than really name only. We have a dues structure for our membership, which is $10 a year. And then we have the 5 and a lifetime membership also. We generate our own funds. Nobody's challenged us or threatened to sue us that I recall for an injury in a parking lot or such. Most of our programming is off campus due to the nature of room availability and parking, which is a big concern for our membership. This past year, we were going to have our first on-campus event at one of our student unions to welcome people back to campus. And obviously that was paused and it'll be paused this year too, due to COVID.
And then there was a question, do you get lists of retired faculty and staff at the university?
Quarterly, we receive a listing of the individuals that have retired the 3 months prior. And then we reach out to those folks, congratulate them on their retirement, and share with them that they will be receiving a paper copy of our newsletter for 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, then we reach out again and say, we hope you've enjoyed the newsletter and learning a little bit about our association, and won't you join us? And we get a fair amount of new members.
And then we also ask folks that know of somebody retiring to do a personal touch too. So we send out a paper letter. We may ask that individual to make a little personal note on it.
And then someone was interested in how you conducted your annual elections online.
Well, we have a nominations committee, and we've been fortunate that there are not contested elections, which helps. So then the nominations committee puts forward a slate, and then we have a yay or nay by a hand, either the virtual or just the waving in the screen to accept that candidate's position.
And our bylaws allow for that.
That was some of the adjustments that we made in the bylaws.
Mary and I are real bylaw nerds, and we make sure that our framework is there that allow us, first of all, to conduct that meeting using technology, as well as being able to vote not only by written ballot.
And then a question about the virtual breakfast, how they work, and do you have a program, and do you use breakout rooms in those?
No, we don't. They've been attended by around 15 folks. Is probably our average. And we have a conversation. It is no different than sitting around a table, and it's, well, Sue, what have you been doing, lately? What have you read lately? Tips of, somebody's learning something. It's not formal in any way. It's just that conversation, no different than we're having here.
And
Time
then
for one more question, Gray.
okay, let's see. And one question, how do you facilitate a sense of personal connectedness given the large number of your members?
Well, not all 2,000 participate. Let's put it that way. Especially the ones from afar. Really just want to stay connected through the newsletter. Certainly, we have an online. If you're a member, you have access to the online membership directory, so you can look up maybe a colleague's phone number and email address, or even home address to send a card to, or to stay connected. All we can do is offer, I guess, and we're trying to change up some of the programming we've done. Typically in the past, we do one on retirement, one on the healthcare system, and we're trying to change it up so we can bring in younger retirees or younger employees and make it more interesting that way. We've also had a slight concern about, or a concern about some of the classism that prevails. Both social, economic, and status within the university. So we're trying to be mindful about the custodian that would like to join the association, who may not have a huge savings or an investment account. And so any investment counseling would not be interested to that individual.
Okay.
So I have one question before you go on, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The questions that we were unable to get to as speakers, will we be able to get those and then respond and then have that added to our handout materials that you send out?
A good idea. I'm going to send the handouts right after this today, but I'm also going to do next week, I'll be sending out the facilitator notes. So we could include your answers. I can send you the chat, which is recorded when we record the meeting, and you can answer those. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. All right. Well, thank you so much to both of our associations. And I'm sorry we couldn't get to everybody's questions. We are always so limited with time, but everybody always wants to get to these breakout rooms so they can chat with one another. And we wanted to leave plenty of time for that. So we do have a facilitator for each breakout room. We have 7 rooms, which means we have about 9 or 10 people in each room. We're going to ask you each to share one successful program or practice. Now, keep in mind, with 9 or 10 people, we'll have 25 minutes. That's about 2.5 minutes per person. So it will have to be brief so that everyone gets a chance to share, and we'll ask our facilitators to kind of keep track of the time. I will be able to send a message to all of the breakout rooms. So I will send a message when you have 5 minutes left. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, I'll be closing the rooms and bringing you back to our main room for just a quick wrap up. I will stay in the main room along with Gray, so anyone can come back to the main room anytime you want if you have questions, or you can send a message in the chat. All right, so it'll be kind of sudden here. I'm going to open the rooms, and you will, I believe, have to click to go into your room. So I'm going to do that right now. And goodbye, everybody. Welcome back, everybody, from your breakout rooms. I do want to take a minute to thank our fabulous facilitators, and those are Al Albin from the UCLA Retirees Association, Roger Baldwin from Michigan State University, Jeanette Brown, USC Emeriti Center, Mary Cisnak-Lane, and Sandy Haas from the University of Wisconsin Association, Joan Merdinger from San Jose State Emeriti and Retired Faculty Association, Linda Pearson from Ivy Tech Community College, and Kent Weaver from University of Toronto Faculty Association. They are all going to be taking bullet point notes of the conversations you had in your breakout rooms. I will be compiling all of those into one PDF and sending them out. So for those of you who were not in a room, you can see what the other rooms talked about. Or for your own room, it'll be a good reminder if you want to follow up with somebody individually. So in closing today, again, I want to thank our fabulous presenters. I thought this was a great session. They shared such great information that I hope you will be able to use in your own organizations. I want to thank Gray, who was our moderator, which is not an easy job, and I'm so glad I have him to monitor the chat and help with all the technical aspects of the meeting. I will be sending an email out today with a link to a brief evaluation. Please fill out the evaluation because it helps us to improve our future webinars. A link and the handouts from the presenters will also come today. In the next few days, once I've had a chance to compile all of the facilitator notes, I will be sending a link to the video recording, the facilitator notes, and email addresses for everyone who participated today. So if you don't want your email address shared, please let me know by emailing me at info@arohe.org. Otherwise, I will share email addresses so you can follow up with one another individually. Also in today's email is going to be a link to a committee interest form. I am going to be co-chairing our virtual conference planning committee. We're planning our conference for mid-October. Dates still to be determined, but it'll be mid-October. And we are looking for people to help with the planning. So there's several subcommittees. I'll include a link to the interest form, and I encourage you to get involved. You know, it's been fabulous for me to be involved with AROHE, meet colleagues from all over the United States and get so many ideas and help to contribute to other organizations. So please, if you can contribute some time, help us out with planning that conference. You can click on the link to the interest form and fill out a few questions and let me know what you'd like to help with. Our next idea exchange is going to be a new format. It's going to be called a member meetup. And that is going to be on Thursday, February 25th at 9 a.m. Pacific. We're not going to have any formal presentations. We're just going to give you a chance to get together in breakout rooms. We're going to have some suggested topics, and we're going to give you an opportunity to share with one another and interact informally. This is a new format because we have so many people tell us that what they really appreciate about these webinars is the chance to talk to other people from other organizations. So we're just going to give you the whole hour and 15 minutes to do that. So watch for an announcement to that next week. So with that, I'm going to close. Thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you at the future webinars. And please don't forget to fill out that evaluation form. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Gray.
Thank you.